I'm so glad you're joining us. My name is Katie Dunn. I started Back to Business, and now I want you to gather the worksheet I emailed you, silence your phone, and get ready for some great job search advice. I want you to stay with us until the end this morning. There'll be an opportunity to register at a discount for the Back to Business Women's Conference on October 6th and 7th in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and also an opportunity to get your questions answered. Questions either about the conference, about returning to work, or about any aspect of searching for a job. The Google, YouTube Q&A function is not available right now, so we'll be taking your questions via email, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Those links are in the email that I sent. So ask your questions anytime. We'll collect them and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. You may be wondering what's in it for you over the next half hour. Well, we'll talk about returning to work and give you a taste of some of the things that we'll cover more in depth during the conference. Our conference is geared specifically for women like us, women who are heading back to work after taking some time off. You'll gain motivation and direction, you'll get started with a job search plan, and you'll join our community. We'll talk more about this at the end of the webinar, but now I want to give you my best rejoining the workforce advice. Okay, so this is me. I'm not proud of it, but this is how I felt during much of the time that I was job searching. I spent 12 years out of the full-time workforce raising our 4 children, and boy, did I love that time. I was lucky enough to have a part-time job during that time at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And when I was ready to return to the workforce full-time, I was surprised at how challenging that was. When I started talking about those challenges to many of the women that I knew, I discovered how many of them were facing the same challenges. So I started the Back to Business Women's Conference because it's exactly what I wanted when I was returning to work. So today, in addition to running Back to Business, I'm an associate director in the MBA Career Management Center at UNC Kenan Flagler Business School. I do career coaching with MBA students, and I love it. I love working. I love coaching people. I love helping people discover what it is they want to do. I love connecting people who are looking for a job with someone who might want to hire them. I do this at UNC and with Back to Business. So I have to tell you that although I did not enjoy every day of the job search process, I learned from it. I found my passion, and now I work on that passion, literally, day and night. So I want to help you get there too. Okay, ready, set, go. We will be using the worksheet I emailed you as the basis for our conversation today. We'll talk through the items, but as soon as this webinar is done, I want you to spend some time filling in the worksheet because we won't have time to do that as we go along today. And while I'll be doing a lot of the talking today, I would like this to be a conversation. So be sure to send us your questions and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Getting ready. Getting ready to job search can mean many things. There's being ready with a physical space, and I encourage you to carve out your own space in your house as Job Search Central. The kitchen table is fine. Just have a space where you sit down to work each day to help you get in the zone and focus on what you're doing. Also, get a notebook so you can keep track of your progress. I know that sounds old school, but I want you to have all of your job search notes in one place. If you're on the phone, you can't be typing notes into your computer while you're doing an informational interview because the person you're talking to will think you're not paying attention, frankly. But you can jot down notes in a notebook, and those notes that you take will be important when you go to follow up with these people. So getting ready can also mean enlisting the support of your family. Your children, depending on their ages, and maybe even your spouse, may not be thrilled with the idea of you going back to work if they're accustomed to having you home when they're home. So understand their concerns, but also share with them the benefits of your return to work. Those may be financial, Or they may be that you're excited to work on something that's meaningful to you. Understanding your own motivations for returning to work will help you when the job search gets tough. I'm going to give you homework from this webinar. And your first assignment, right there on your worksheet, is to write down 2 reasons why you're returning to work. I want you to be intentional about your job search, and actually writing down those reasons will help you to do just that. Enlist support outside your family as well, because you need peers to share ideas and personal connections with, and to give you encouragement along the way. Job search can be challenging, let's face it, particularly for women like us who are returning to the workforce. My job search took much longer than I anticipated. HR departments move slowly for some reason, and finding and winning over advocates and connections in different companies, that all takes time. So be sure that you have reasonable expectations as you head into this big life transition. So now let's talk about answering that all-important question of, what kind of job do I want to get? Many of us returning to work already know that we don't want to go back to the same kind of work that we left. I know I was in that camp. My last full-time job before kids was at a huge technology company. And it was satisfying then, but when I thought about returning to work, I knew that kind of a job would not be satisfying to me anymore. Maybe you feel the same way. Finding your path back to work is very much about matching up what you enjoy with what your local job market needs. So I'm going to give you more homework here. Get out your worksheet and take a look. Here are a few ways to explore what type of job you might want to return to. First, I'd like you to write down 10 things you do in your life or have done recently that you enjoy. Just things you enjoy. Don't limit yourself to work type activities. You could write down gardening, leading that project for the PTA, running, doing yoga, researching on the web, budgeting for your family, teaching Sunday school, but be specific and push yourself to get to 10. The next thing I want you to do is write down your 10 biggest accomplishments. Again, don't limit yourself to professional or work-related accomplishments, but do be sure to include at least a few professional accomplishments. And here are a few clues as you think about what those accomplishments might be. What problems have you solved? What processes have you improved or initiated? Did you save a company money, manage people, meet or exceed goals? Did you write reports, increase profits, cut costs? Did you start something new? Accomplishments can come in all different shapes and sizes. So really dig deep and write down 10 that you are proud of. The next task is to write down the skills you possess. Yep, come up with a list of 10. For clues, look back at your list of what you enjoy and what you've accomplished. We enjoy doing what we're good at, so I bet you'll find some skills you possess hidden in those lists that you just made. And after your list of skills, I want you to think about who you are in terms of personality. Do you enjoy getting to know your coworkers, or do you prefer to work alone? Do you thrive on the back and forth of team debate? Do you need a lot of direction? Do you hate a lot of direction? Do you enjoy leading a team, coaching and managing others? You guessed it, write down 10 words that describe your personality. And again, this is all work that I want you to spend some time after this webinar working on, because I want you to put a lot of thought into it, and I think it will really pay off for you. Okay, now what? What are we going to do with all this information? Well, now that you have all of this information about you in one place, use it to think realistically about what it qualifies you to do in a professional setting. And I want you to really think about this, because this is an important step in job search. Putting in the time up front on this will help you feel directed as you look for a job. Of course, you're always free to revisit this document and change your objective, but having it in writing is a great first step on your job search. I went through this exercise myself when I was thinking about returning to work. I wrote down all of these things that I am asking you to do, and then I came up with a professional objective. And I'll be honest, I changed it partway through my job search. And I changed it based on what I learned about the job market here, about what I learned about myself as I went through that process. And just having that document there to revisit and lay my thoughts out in writing was really a big help to me. And I bet it will be to you as well. So success in job search requires matching what you have to offer with what the market needs. So think about the industry in your area. It's of no use to be a highly qualified hospital administrator if there isn't a hospital nearby. So that's just one reason why it's really important to take what you have to offer and match that up with what your local labor market needs. So let's talk about doing some research using LinkedIn. It's really the most efficient way that I've found to do research on your local job market. And here's how I do it. Next to the search box at the top of your LinkedIn screen, click that drop-down menu, the one that the arrow on your screen is pointing to, and select Jobs. That will show you that little briefcase that I'm pointing to there. Now enter your city name and the field you are researching. Just as an example, I put in Raleigh marketing and click search. I got 1,816 results. Wow. Now I can look through those results to see what types of marketing jobs are being filled in Raleigh right now. And this is important because marketing jobs is a very broad search term, and I'm likely to get all sorts of results. Do you see that similar button under each listing? That's a great tool that will show more jobs that are similar in nature to the one listed on your screen. Get to know the similar function on LinkedIn. And here's one more thought about having 1,800 jobs to look through. I want you to use your job search time wisely. So narrow your search down and run it again based on what you've read there that you like. Really, reading 1,800 job postings is just not productive. But what it can tell you about your local job market is really invaluable. Now, what if I typed in a field that returned just 5 results? Well, then I would know I would need to broaden my search. So use LinkedIn, spend a lot of time on that search function. It is a great way to research companies. From your LinkedIn search, as well as your own knowledge of your local job market and your reading of the local business press, which you're doing every day as a job searcher, you can put together a target company list. Aim to include 30 companies on your target list. Think about where your friends and neighbors work, where your friends' spouses work, just to get some ideas to get you started. Once you've compiled your list, get to work finding people at that company that you can speak with and who will hopefully advocate for you internally. Companies love to hire people that their current employees recommend. Reskilling or refreshing your business skills is a key step in the process of returning to work after a career break. While you are out of the workforce, your field may have changed. It is up to you to determine what the skills required in your field are now and how you're going to get them. You may need to think about budgeting some extra money over the next few months to invest in updating your skills. But I'll tell you, there are also plenty of ways to do this that might not cost you anything. Check out MOOCs like Coursera, webinars like this one, and lynda.com. You can learn anything on lynda.com. It's really amazing. Check out your local community college too. In Raleigh, we have Wake Tech, and they offer some courses that are free to job seekers. There are also online certifications that you can pursue depending on what your field is. When I was job searching, I earned my Google AdWords certification online. The self-paced course and the certification test were both free. I could do them on my own time. And I felt like when I was interviewing, it gave me a really nice story to tell, that I identified what skills I needed and I went out and got them on my own. And having a story to tell like that really makes you look like a go-getter. So be sure to go and get those skills you need update your business skills, and then have a good story around how you did that. Okay, back to LinkedIn. So rather than address LinkedIn updates step by step, I'm going to talk about why LinkedIn is important for job seekers. And here I'm talking about not just using it for research, but putting up a profile for yourself that is really top-notch. You have to create an awesome profile for yourself because the fact is that 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to vet candidates. 94%. That's pretty much every recruiter out there. So I cannot overstate the importance of LinkedIn and having a great profile if you are a job seeker. And it's not just recruiters. Really, everyone who is considering you for a job, everyone you meet in a professional setting who wants to know more about you, and everyone who receives your resume is looking you up on LinkedIn. Think about what you want them to see when they look you up. I want people to see a professional, but also a person who is enthusiastic about her career. I love what I do, both at UNC, working with MBA students, and running Back to Business. And when I look at people on LinkedIn, and I look people up all the time, I am drawn to people who seem to enjoy what they do. So instead of reprinting your resume on LinkedIn, I suggest writing a very brief paragraph for each of your positions. Resumes and LinkedIn profiles are two different mediums. Show that you understand the difference by presenting your information differently in each place. Okay, so make your LinkedIn profile as complete as possible. If it feels bare, consider publishing a post on a topic related to your intended field. Ladies, you don't have to be a Harvard-educated expert in a subject to write about it. Recommend people you know and ask them to do the same for you. The recommendations on my LinkedIn profile are recommendations that I asked for when I was job searching. I sent an email to a few people I worked with and asked them if they would mind recommending me, and I offered to do the same for them. People are happy to do this for you, but they do generally wait to be asked. So go ahead and ask. The resume, perhaps your most important job-seeking tool and the most challenging for a woman who has stepped off the career track. I'm going to give you a few ideas for how you can put together a compelling resume, even though you may have been out of the paid workforce for a while. I love that expression, paid workforce, because I know that just because you haven't drawn a paycheck in a while, you've still been working really hard. So now back to resume. I suggest an objective at the top of your resume. This is a good way to make clear what you're looking for and why you're going to be great at it. You can include significant volunteer experience at which you used important skills like leading, managing, fundraising, communicating, organizing, or budgeting. Something else you might want to consider is a functional resume. If you're a job seeker with a gap in your work experience, this can be really handy. A functional resume focuses on your skills rather than your chronological work history. Monster.com has a really good example of a functional resume. If you're coming up short in the resume department, consider doing some pro bono work or getting involved in a volunteer activity that will allow you to add a new experience to your resume. Okay, it's time to get out there and start networking. For women returning to the workforce, your best bet for getting a job is through someone you know or a personal connection that you make. Statistically, the majority of jobs are landed this way, but for us, I'm convinced that percentage is even higher. And that's just because a typical resume is not going to tell the whole story for women like us. I want to encourage you to start talking to people about your job search. Start with people you know, then talk to the people that they know. Do informational interviews as well. These are not just for college kids anymore. Find a local networking event and attend their meetings. Here in the Raleigh area, I'm going to suggest Connected Women of North Carolina as a great place to start. They hold networking lunches and do educational programming. The group's run by a dynamic group of women who are really focused on creating connections among area women. You can find them online through their website and on LinkedIn. If you're not in the Raleigh area, just Google networking groups in your city or town, and I'm sure that you will find a few that you could join as good options. You can also join a professional association related to your intended field. Check meetups for other groups that look interesting to you. There's lots of different ways to get out there, but the idea is to get out there, meet new people, and build relationships. Remember, though, while you're doing it, that relationships are two-way streets. I'm reading a fascinating book right now called Give and Take, and the author's premise is that some people are givers. They go out of their way to connect people to each other and to help them. And his research shows that the givers get farther in life than the takers. So be a giver. Approach networking as a way to build mutually beneficial relationships. After you meet people at a networking event, come home and invite them to connect on LinkedIn. This is how you build your network and keep in touch with people. And if you need more help getting started or need further convincing of the value of networking, Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone is a must read. It's one of my top 3 favorite books ever. You'll want to have your elevator pitch all shined up and ready to go when you attend those networking events. The key to a good elevator pitch is knowing the 2 or 3 key ideas about yourself that you want to convey. You should also have a statement prepared about what you're looking for and why you're a good fit for that role. Practice your pitch until it sounds really natural. Before you go for an interview, it's a good idea to have an idea of the acceptable range of compensation for the position you're interviewing for. I suggest salary.com for this information. Glassdoor and LinkedIn are also good sources. One note on compensation specific to women re-entering the workforce: keep in mind that you may find yourself re-entering the workforce at a lower salary than what you were making before you left. Now, I know this can be frustrating, but keep the big picture in mind. Once you're back at work and have current experience on your resume, you will be able to parlay that into a higher paying job down the road. Let's talk about interviewing. And let's face it, interviewing, well, it can be scary. I want you to look at an interview as your opportunity to shine, though. This is your chance to convince a hiring manager that you bring something unique and valuable to the table. Get a list of common interview questions and write out your answers so you can practice them. Tailor those answers to the job you are interviewing for. And remember to put some structure around your answers. I like the PAR format, P-A-R, in which you describe a problem, you describe the action that you took, and then you talk about the result you achieved as a way to answer interview questions. So do your research and demonstrate your knowledge of the company and the role during the interview. And you can do that with your answers, but also by being prepared with good questions. Not the kind of questions you can get answers to on the company website, but I want you to think about some really insightful questions that clarify the role, the company's mission, and their expectations of you, both now and in the future as an employee. Be sure to get business cards of everyone you interview with to make following up easier. And be sure always to ask about the next steps before you leave an interview. After an interview, you'll want to follow up within 24 hours with a thank you note. Personally, I prefer email for the thank you notes because your interviewer will receive it faster. If you send a note via the post office, the decision about whether or not to hire you may already be made before your letter even arrives. How often can you follow up after an interview if you haven't heard from the company? I say a week. And I know how frustrating it can be to not get a response from a company after you went to the trouble of interviewing there. But let's just accept that this is often a fact of life in job searching. It's rude, I know. And that's why you never stop looking for a job until you have a written offer in hand. A big part of our mission at Back to Business is changing the way the world views women re-entering the workforce, and in fact, women's careers in general. And this means that we're speaking to recruiters about the incredible pool of talent that you all represent. We're spreading the word that a career break is really a natural part of life for many workers, both men and women, and that these career breaks can be great opportunities for people to grow, to expand their skill sets, and to gain focus about where they can really add value to a company. So every woman who returns to work after a career break represents another opportunity for us to demonstrate that this is true. When you do relaunch your career, and I know you will, please look out for the other women coming behind you. That's really, really important. So I hope you've enjoyed some of this return to work advice and have gotten some tips that will help you out as you re-enter the workforce. I wish we had more time because there's so much to say on the subject of job search. But I do want to invite each of you to attend the Back to Business Women's Conference on October 6th and 7th in Research Triangle Park. We have just touched on the many parts of the job search process here today, but we'll be able to go much more in depth and have a lot more time to dig deeply into many of these at the conference. We'll have Catherine Tuttle of Forward Thinking Resumes leading an in-depth resume workshop for us. We want you to come with a draft of your resume, and Catherine will walk you through the steps of putting together a resume that you will really feel proud of. Our keynote speaker, once again, is Carol Fishman-Cohen of iRelaunch. Carol is an amazing speaker who has really dedicated her relaunched professional life to helping people re-enter the workforce. She just did a TED Talk on this topic that I encourage you to watch. It just hit 1 million views. And I have to say that much of the credit for drawing attention to the issue of career relaunchers belongs to Carol. So we are thrilled to have her speaking at our conference. We'll also talk about specific job skills you need to be successful in the job search, and we'll give you specific advice on how to get them. We've got 2 panels that I'm really excited about at the conference. One is a panel of women who have relaunched their careers, and we'll be featuring some of the women who attended the Back to Business Women's Conference last year on this panel. The other panel is made up of local recruiters. You'll get to hear what they think of relaunchers and some tips for how to get your resume to stand out to recruiters when they're looking through that big pile of resumes. Our conference concludes with a networking event. This is an amazing opportunity for you to meet local recruiters and hiring managers who have positions to fill. During the conference, we'll put you into peer support groups with women who live near you, so you'll have a group of women to support you after the conference. Many of these groups that were formed during last year's conference are still meeting. I love that. We've really been able to build a community of amazing women, and I'm excited for you to join us. There are only a few days left for you to register at our lowest price of $225. On June 1, which is right around the corner, the registration price goes up to $275. So I want you to plan ahead and register now on our website, which is www.backttobusinessconference.com. I love a bargain, and believe me, you will get your money's worth at $225. We'll have photographers taking professional LinkedIn photos, and along with breakfast and lunch, this is all included in the ticket price. We planned the conference for early October because that's a great time of year to be focusing on your career search. Your kids will be back in school and settled into their routines, and it will be your turn to invest in yourself. Not a lot of job search activity happens over the summer with so many people on vacations, so we found the fall timing to be perfect for both job seekers and hiring companies. Okay, well, I have presented a lot of material, and I would love to take any questions you have. So ask anything, well, almost anything. You can send in your questions via email, Twitter, Facebook, or our LinkedIn group, and I will answer as many of those as I can get to. So we do have some questions here. The first question that came in was, what do you suggest we wear for an interview these days? And that is a great question, Tricia. Thanks for asking. My answer to that is to really know the company culture well and know, is it the type of office where they wear suits? If so, you will definitely want to wear a suit. If it's a more casual tech company, will people be in shorts and flip-flops? Well, you never want to show up for an interview in shorts and flip-flops, but perhaps a suit isn't the appropriate choice for a company like that. So in that case, I would say go with something that's business casual. And by that, I mean you don't need to wear a suit, but perhaps a skirt and a blouse, or nice professional looking pants and a blouse. Always dress just a little bit above what you think you might need to wear if you were working there on a day-to-day basis. But be sure that what you wear to an interview reflects your knowledge of the company and their culture and what people typically wear there. So Laura asks, regarding the informational interview, how would I go about lining one up? And that's a great question too. I want to encourage you to look at the blog on our website where we talk really specifically about informational interviews and give a lot of tips about lining those up. So my best advice is to just start reaching out to people. You can do that via LinkedIn or email. Start with friendly faces. So maybe start with a friend. And once you get good at doing informational interviews, move on to people that they know. Really, just a very brief and friendly email, a little flattery never hurts when you tell somebody why it is that you would like to do an informational interview with them. And then be prepared when you get there to really use the time wisely. Have some great questions lined up. Okay, so let's see. There's another question here about the conference. I'm interested in the conference, but a little nervous about committing to a conference that's 5 months away. What should I do? Well, that's a good question. And I'll tell you that the reason we've opened registration 5 months in advance is because we found that many women with children find themselves really too busy in the summer to do a lot of work on their job search. So we want you to plan now to attend the conference in October. If you do register now and find a job before the conference, you can always transfer your ticket to a friend. So there's really no risk in registering now, and you'll save money. We do expect the conference to sell out again this year and don't want you to miss it. So be sure to take this opportunity to register. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. If there are any additional questions, feel free to email them to me and I'd be happy to answer those. As soon as you click off this webinar, I want you to spend some time on the worksheet and really going through and answering each of those questions. I think that will really help you find direction as you go through your job search. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to meeting you all at the conference. And I wish you the best of luck in your job search. Have a great day, everybody.